The rest of this broadcast will be devoted to a three-part profile of Mrs. Clinton, compiled and reported by Nightline correspondent Chris Bury and producer Lisa Koenig.
The images are exhausting. Hillary, the White House hostess. Hillary on the Hill. Hillary, the healthcare crusader. The dutiful mother and power wife. No wonder Americans are so fascinated.
I love her. I absolutely love her. I think Hillary Clinton is bleh.
She's a very intelligent woman, and I think a lot of people support her.
She's independent. She can think for herself, and she doesn't care what the media or anybody else says about her.
In the media, Hillary Rodham Clinton is presented in fragments. Hillary, the fashion statement. Everything is scrutinized, right down to the blue hat she wore on Inauguration Day.
She did have a coat to match the hat, which looked better. When she took the coat off, it didn't seem to make sense.
Look.
On news programs, the pervasive footage now is Hillary, the professional.
She went to Capitol Hill to promote health care reform.
But change the channel to a comedy show and see Hillary skewered as the overbearing wife. Flip through any magazine and Mrs. Clinton is there in one facet or another. At People magazine, that barometer of who's in and who's out, Hillary has been the best-selling cover subject of the year, moving more magazines than any of Hollywood's leading ladies, even more than the last cover on Princess Di.
Hillary Clinton is the next Princess Di in one sense. I think she's on her way to becoming the most famous woman in the world. Diana, I think, has been that. I think Hillary is going to be that.
Indeed, Hillary has already become an international curiosity.
Very good-looking lady, very smart, and the next Eleanor Roosevelt, I believe.
I feel very sorry for her being in the limelight the way she is. I think it must be very difficult for her.
In Tokyo, most major bookstores have a Clinton corner. Hillary, like Madonna before her, has become a pop icon, to young women especially.
I hope I can be like her when I reach her age.
This worldwide fascination seems to stem from Hillary Clinton's high wire act. How does she balance it all?
Hillary Clinton really is every woman in the sense that she's trying to do what we're all trying to do, which is to have a home, to have a family, to have a decent marriage, to have a career. And I think everyone's looking to her to see if she can manage that balancing act.
At first, Hillary Clinton and her staff seemed to struggle with what image to put forward when. In her first interview after the inauguration, Mrs. Clinton, posing in a designer dress, talked about place settings, but would not discuss policy. 3 days later, she was back on the front page, this time on Capitol Hill in a business suit. It is that image the White House likes to emphasize now.
She's got two problems. One of them is that she's got to decide who she is and what her role is and is going to be. And the other one is she's got to decide whether that's going to play in Peoria.
So far, she's playing well, according to a Nightline survey. Most Americans, 59%, have a favorable impression of Hillary Clinton, and 61% say they approve of her appointment to head the task force on health care reform.
I think he needs a woman's opinion, and I think she's going to have a good, strong input on that, and that's super.
I think she's going to take the bull by the horns and help solve the problem on health care.
Still, a sizable minority, 38%, feel Hillary Clinton has too much influence. Republicans in particular feel that way, and men more so than women.
In the beginning of the election, they particularly said that she would not be in a position of power. So I don't understand why she is in a position of power. What gives her the qualifications to be in a position of power?
If he doesn't agree with her, he's going to have a heck of a time telling her that. I think it's going to make it very difficult for him.
The ambivalence in public opinion reflects nothing so much as the larger national debate about women in high places.
We pretty much know what wives look like, and we've learned over the last generation what independent women look like, so that you can be a wife or you can be a female member of the Senate or the cabinet, but we don't know exactly what it is to be both an independent woman and a wife, an independent wife. And that's really what the Hillary Clinton story is kind of working out for us.
So Hillary Rodham Clinton, the world's most visible independent wife, has become a human lightning rod, and therefore good grist for columnists.
There's a lot of little jokes. The joke is that how's the president doing? And the president's doing fine. It's her husband that's having the tough time.
Cartoonists, too, love to lampoon Hillary as the more dominant Clinton in the White House, building her own empire. Spy magazine put her on the cover in whips and chains. And for conservative talker Rush Limbaugh, Hillary the Powerful is a regular shtick.
Whenever I say Hillary, whenever her name is mentioned, we're going to play Hail to the Chief on this show to signify her role in the new administration.
This image, Hillary the All-Powerful, is all about sexism, according to her friends and advisors.
You know, the world is full of weak men that have always been scared of strong women. And I say to heck with them. Let them go and wallow in their own insecurities.
For all the images that define Hillary Clinton, most people seem to like what they see. What still makes some Americans uneasy, though, is the very real novelty of a partnership in the presidency and not knowing quite where Hillary Clinton's influence begins and where it ends.
When we return, we'll look at the First Lady's growing influence on her husband's administration.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by...
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, Bill Clinton, and the First Lady, Hillary Rodham Clinton.
It was a momentary slip of the tongue, to be sure, but the announcer could be forgiven for trying to give the Vice or First Lady a loftier title. Co-President might be stretching it, but no matter what people call Hillary Rodham Clinton in Washington, they call her powerful.
This is not some kind of woman behind the scenes who's pulling the strings. This woman's out front pulling the strings.
The person that has the last thing to say to somebody before they go to sleep and the first thing to say to them when they wake up in the morning is going to start out with a pretty good bit of influence. You add to that a IQ that's capable of boiling water. You got somebody that's going to be a pretty influential person.
For the wife of any president, of course, great influence is a given. Access, after all, is power, and no one has more access than a spouse. But perhaps no president has ever handed his wife so much power so publicly.
This task force will be chaired by the First Lady, Hillary Rodham Clinton.
It is not just Hillary Clinton's leadership of the nation's thorniest problem, reforming the $800 billion health care system. And it is not just the First Lady's unprecedented lobbying in the corridors of Congress. Not just her advice on choosing the cabinet, or her help rewriting the President's State of the Union speech. What's different is the depth and range of Hillary Clinton's influence.
Hillary Clinton is playing a more active, more visible, more influential role as presidential spouse than any previous spouse in the history of this country.
Nothing underscores that role like the location of Hillary Clinton's office in the West Wing of the White House, near the president and his senior staff. It is such exclusive real estate that no vice president had an office there until Walter Mondale in 1977. Hillary Clinton's domain is on the second floor, surrounded by the president's top domestic policy advisors, most of whom also happen to be her friends. The friends of Bill, known as FOBs, became legendary for their loyalty during the campaign. But the friends of Hillary are just as loyal, nearly as numerous, and perhaps every bit as powerful in this administration. The White House counsel, Bernard Nussbaum, has known Hillary Clinton since they both worked on the House Judiciary Committee during the Nixon impeachment hearings. The president's domestic policy advisor, Carol Rasko, is seen more as Hillary Clinton's aide than his. The president's top man at the Justice Department, Webb Hubbell, is not only the president's golf partner, he was Hillary's law partner in Little Rock. Trade Representative Mickey Cantor knew Hillary before he knew Bill, and Health and Human Services Secretary Donna Shalala, who worked with Hillary Clinton at the Children's Defense Fund, made a public point of thanking the First Lady, as well as the president, for her nomination.
I'd like to say something about the other Clinton, a woman of immense talent, my friend Hillary.
I intend to do that. I intend to
The search for an attorney general exemplifies Hillary Clinton's circle of influence and its clout. Two of her closest friends, attorneys Susan Thomases and Peter Edelman, helped to screen candidates. Hillary Clinton herself interviewed finalist Kimba Wood for nearly half an hour. The Attorney General designate, Janet Reno, came to the president's attention through Hillary Clinton's brother, Hugh Rodham. And women's groups pressing for a female Attorney General knew all along they had a powerful ally.
We were very well aware that when those names went in, that there were only a handful of people who were finally left in the room who were evaluating those names, and Hillary Clinton is one of those.
In fact, White House Personnel Director Bruce Lindsay routinely runs top appointments past Hillary. Her approval is considered critical in the Departments of Justice, Health and Human Services, and Education. But her reach extends all the way from the cabinet to the backwaters of the bureaucracy.
I talked with people on the transition team for the Resolution Trust Corporation, which is an obscure federal agency that handles the savings and loan bailout. They knew what Hillary's position was. They were very scared of going against her wishes. Her position was that the RTC, this agency, should sell more property to low-income people. And they were terrified of not doing that. This is an agency that most people have never heard of, and yet her influence is there. Imagine how strong her influence is on the more obvious agencies.
The president's advisors suggest Hillary Clinton's influence is often exaggerated in Washington parlor games and by the press and pundits. What's more, they argue, it misses the point of how the Clintons' partnership really works.
The first biggest myth is that Mrs. Clinton, always gets away with the president. She'd be the first to tell you that's far, far from the truth.
In Arkansas, the Clintons' partnership was sometimes known as Billary, but the former governor's longtime chief of staff insists there was never any question about who was in charge.
I've watched her many times make recommendations to him and then back off out of respect for the fact that he was the governor or he's the president and it's his decision to make.
That view from Little Rock is not shared by some Washington insiders. Michael Deaver served as an advisor in the Reagan White House.
From what we're able to see, she is a co-equal partner in all the major decisions that are made in the White House. Clearly, certainly the most powerful First Lady, but probably the second most powerful person in the country today.
That Hillary Clinton is such a major player is no surprise to those who watched the Clinton team govern for 11 years in Arkansas. But in the American presidency, their public partnership is a brand new game, and no one seems quite sure of the rules.
When we come back, the question: what if the president thinks the First Lady is doing a bad job?
In a capital obsessed with power, Hillary Rodham Clinton's growing influence naturally gives rise to questioning voices.
If people can't say no to her, are they saying no to him?
Should she be interviewing the candidates for appointment? I mean, who appointed her?
Does she come up and testify? Who's calling the shots? Who's really in charge?
So no one quite knows what to expect, and no one quite knows what they think about what she should be doing. Everyone is conflicted about this.
It's no wonder. Early in his campaign, Bill Clinton talked about a team presidency, perhaps putting his wife in the cabinet, and described their partnership as a 2-for-1 deal.
I always say that my slogan might well be buy one, get one free.
But then came the Hillary factor, the commotion over that infamous soundbite about baking cookies, her campaign makeover from feminist lawyer to worshiping wife. Now the metamorphosis to presidential partner, and with it a debate over false advertising.
It was a very conscious move and sort of turned her into an adoring Nancy Reagan wife for the rest of the campaign. But as soon as they were elected, they dropped the Nancy Reagan wife, and all of a sudden they were a team again, and she was almost a co-president. It was all very sudden, and the voters really weren't told that this was going to happen. They didn't get what they thought they were getting.
I think that beneath all of the cookies and the blonde hair and all of that, people knew that this was a substantive woman who had an agenda. And so she has put herself up to be judged on that level, and the level will be a substantive success. And if she makes it, it'll be fantastic. If she doesn't, I think the the kind of failure and the kind of pain will be more than any other First Lady has ever been subjected to.
Hillary Clinton already appears to be feeling that pressure, taking solace recently in the painful legacy of Eleanor Roosevelt.
When I learned that even before President Roosevelt was inaugurated, newspapers were editorializing against Mrs. Roosevelt. They were saying she should keep her opinions to herself, that her husband had been elected president, and no one in America wanted to hear a thing that she had to say. And so it struck me that what was really happening to me wasn't anything very new at all.
Yes, Eleanor Roosevelt, too, had her own circle of influence and friends in the cabinet. And yes, Edith Wilson ran the government after Woodrow Wilson's stroke. Rosalind Carter did testify before Congress, and Nancy Reagan's fingerprints were all over White House power struggles. But the historical model for Hillary Clinton may be none of the above.
First ladies will always have power. This is unprecedented. This is the potential for competing lines of authority down into the government and micromanaging different parts of the government and different parts of government policy.
Take welfare policy, for instance. Hillary Clinton's lifelong association with children's causes and her close friendship with Marian Wright Edelman, founder of the Children's Defense Fund, have already led to the appointment of their mutual friend, Donna Shalala, to head the federal agency that oversees welfare. But the Children's Defense Fund is a liberal advocacy group. It has always opposed the kind of tough welfare reforms that helped elect Bill Clinton.
One of the risks is that information doesn't get through to the president. If Hillary Clinton has strong personal views, they may tend to outweigh the views of others in the cabinet or in the administration who feel strongly to the contrary. That's a potential cost.
Vice President Gore may already be paying a price for the rising prominence of Hillary Clinton. The media seem to have forgotten him. Since early January, according to one study, all three nightly network newscasts have devoted 52 minutes to Hillary Clinton and 4 minutes to Al Gore.
The story around Washington is that Al Gore was told this was going to be a co-presidency, but he had the mistaken idea that he would be the co-president.
Co-president or not, Hillary Clinton's role in leading health care reform has raised the larger question of accountability. More than 500 people now report to Mrs. Clinton's task force, and it's charged with producing the most sweeping reforms in government since Social Security. Yet the president can hardly fire the First Lady if he doesn't like her work.
If someone that he chose other than his wife failed at it, he could distance himself very easily from it. You can't distance yourself from somebody you're going to bed with at night.
First of all, you're very accountable to your husband. And if you screw up and you bring him down as well as you, that's a certain kind of accountability that a lot of us would feel very, very strongly.
For all the questions about Hillary Clinton's influence, there are very few guideposts. It is the wild card of the Clinton presidency.
The president has decided to do it. There's nothing anyone can do about that. He has every right to involve his wife actively in his administration. He'll be judged by the results, not by the process.
From everything we've been told by those who know her well, the word that describes Hillary Clinton best is pragmatist. Whatever her strong views, the record suggests Hillary Clinton's agenda, above all, is to protect her husband. And for all the precedent she shatters, her role is likely to be limited by a political calculation, whether or not she appears to be helping the president. This is Chris Bury for Nightline in Washington.
I'll be back with a program note in a moment. On 2020, Barbara Walters interviews the man in the middle of the suicide controversy, Dr. Jack Kevorkian. That's tomorrow night on this ABC station. I'm Ted Koppel. That's our report for tonight. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.
If you wish a videocassette version of Nightline, the cost is $14.